Chief Dr. Joe Howard Taylor, Vice President of the Republic of Liberia, former Senator of Bong County, and former First Lady of the Republic. 20 years ago, as a result of my conviction that girls needed an education in order to be a part of the peace and development initiatives of our country, I founded the Jewel Starfish Foundation. This foundation has done significant work in providing scholarships, mentoring opportunities, and empowerment of women and girls. We have added a new component that deals with victims of sexual and gender-based violence. As a young girl growing up here in Monrovia, with parents who were humanitarians but healthcare workers, I saw the impact of women who were not empowered, who had children they couldn't support, and who sometimes were left alone with many children because they didn't provide any support to the home. And I thought, if women and girls were given the opportunity to learn and become proficient in what they wanted to learn and to become parts of the building blocks of our society, the situation that women face would diminish. That relates to single family homes, which has now become a norm in our society. A lot of the family structures have broken down. There are many girls who have no option of maybe being married, and so they resort to many devices, maybe prostitution, maybe selling drugs, maybe going as a migrant to countries where they become slaves. The things that happen to young girls without an education are countless. And so I began a process of providing educational opportunities that will help give hope, first of all, to young girls, and then secondly, to provide them with a livelihood. With hope and the livelihood and opportunities that it provides, the family structure becomes stronger, and then women have a choice. My dream for the girls under the Jewel Starfish Foundation is to change their lives and make a difference, one girl at a time. We will be providing educational opportunities for girls and young women. We'll also be involved in accelerating women's economic empowerment and providing support to victims of gender-based violence. The Jewel Starfish Foundation will also provide a platform that creates access to mentorship for the next generation of young women and girls, and creating partnerships with individuals and institutions who are determined to help us achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. Because of the critical nature of the work that we're going to do, providing educational opportunities to girls in difficult situations, providing mentorship to girls who are our leaders across the country, and providing support to victims of sexual and gender-based violence, I extend a hand out to all of my friends, supporters, partners, and well-wishers to join me and our partners at the Jewel Starfish Foundation as we work towards changing lives and making a difference, one girl at a time.
this time, we now have the playing of the national anthem of the Republic of Liberia. At this stage, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, I will now invite Councillor J. Bima Lassana, chairperson of the local organizing committee for the AFBA 2019 conference, who will now give us the welcome remark. Councillor Lassana.
Stage in our beloved country. For this honor, so generally restored by our distinguished colleagues, we thank the Almighty God for the selection of our country, Liberia, from among many others that equally were carried playing host to such continental gatherings of lawyers. Again, we say bravo to our colleague of AFBA for selecting me in particular to chair the LOC, Local Organization Committee. The annual conference of lawyers, AFBA, brings together lawyers, policy makers, political leaders, politicians, business executives, and professionals, and stakeholders in other endeavors for all walks of life to deliberate issues of concern to and affecting the continent of Africa. For the Liberian National Bar Association, the oldest bar of independent countries on the continent, in which have been involved with major history-shaping epochs in Africa, it is a pride to host this event. The local organizing committee was initially set up to work along with AFBA and the NFBA to undertake the task of ensuring the posting of conditional workshop on the team, rules of engagement in asymmetric warfare and security operations, need for compliance with international law. Whilst plans were afoot in this wise endeavor, a major unfortunate event conspired by way of the sudden collapse of efforts to hold an annual conference in Cairo, Egypt. At this point, the Executive Council of AFBA deemed not prudent, but also expedient and cost efficient to collapse the workshop into the annual conference and hold both in Monrovia, Liberia, with the former being a one-day subset event of the latter. Thus, AFBA requested, and the LNP recently and without minimal hesitation, accepted what has now become an expanded mandate. Inspired by the desire to be a part of history, the LOC set to work with unimaginable glee and enthusiasm that culminated in our being here today. The LOC assured you that the deliberation of grave issues of concerns affecting the continent is expected to be carried out for the next 4 days will be held in the Mission Possible Climate Character Races of Liberia. During the long business hour of the conference, we encourage you to explore and suffer with total abandon the relaxing atmosphere of Monrovia and its environs, including, in particular, the conference centers, the address of which shall be made available to you soonest. On behalf of the Local Organizing Committee, the Liberian National Bar Association, and the African Bar Association, we want to express our heartfelt thanks and commendation to the President of the Republic of Liberia, Dr. George Monrovia, for accepting our invitation to attend and declare open this conference, who is now being represented by our Honorable Vice President, Chief Joel Howard Taylor, and the government of Liberia for national support, giving through its 9 ministries and agencies and public operations to our endeavors. The local committee to carry out this actually attacks on a short notice. We are very proud to commend private business horses, which in the wake of the prevailing difficult economic conditions makes contributions towards the successful hosting of the conference. Our commendation also goes to the Chief Justice and the Associate Justices of the Honorable Supreme Court of Liberia, the National Trial Judges Association of Liberia. Special commendation to our advisors and lawyers, some of the latter who, though not members of the committee, also gave valuable their services to ensure the success of the conference. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, we welcome all delegates, participants, and well-wishers to the 2019 annual conference of the African Bar Association, now holding in Monrovia, the capital of Liberia. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Councillor Tiawo S. Gongolo, who will address this conference. Councillor Gongolo.
Madam Vice President, Mrs. Joel Howard Taylor, Her Honor, Senior Associate Justice James Eto Olokoli, Chief Madam Mom Lao, the President of the African Bar Association, the Doyen of the Diplomatic Corps, Monsieur le Doyen du Corps Diplomatique, Honorable Minister of Justice, the Senior Vice President of the Bar Association, the African Bar Association, other officials of the Governing Council of the African Bar Association, Associate Justices of the Supreme Court, Ministers of Government present, the Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces of Liberia, Monsieur le Chef d'État-Major de l'Armée, our resource persons and speakers, Honorable Karen Khan, our own friend, the distinguished keynote speaker at this occasion, other distinguished ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the members of the National Executive Committee and the entire membership of the Liberian National Bar Association, we welcome the President and members of the Governing Council of the African Bar Association, all members of the African Bar Association, the keynote speaker and resource persons, and other distinguished ladies and gentlemen who have made the decision to attend both the annual conference of the African Bar Association and its training workshop from October 21 to 24, 2019. Since its formation in 1907, this is the first time that the Liberian National Bar Association is hosting such international events for the sharing of the knowledge on a very important subject matter facing the continent. This conference is being held under the general theme, Tackling Contemporary Issues Facing the African Continent, How Lawyers Can Drive a Renaissance. The struggle of the African people against colonial and military rules was for them to establish democracy as a foundation for the development of Africa. Although a little bit of progress has been made in the holding of free and fair elections, not much has been achieved in the areas of respect for human rights and the rule of law in most parts of Africa. For example, the lack of tolerance of the opposing views of citizens who are not part of the government in power by the citizens who occupy offices in the government in power, even though they are equal citizens of the same state, tend to deny those in power the alternative views they need to affirm their actions or adjust them for the common good. While the denial of the right to express an opposing view or punishment for the expression of sin by government undermines the building of a free society, it is important for free expression to be void of invectives in the interest of decency as a way of promoting a culture of peace. Democracy is based on the differences of opinion, and the expression of these opinions must be accorded equal protection in the democratic society by the rule of law. Respect for human rights and the rule of law are the two pillars required for the building of a democratic society. This conference provides an opportunity for the legal minds of the continent to provide the way forward in tackling these and other challenges that the people of Africa face in driving a renaissance. We stand in a great debt of gratitude to the Governing Council of the African Bar Association for choosing Liberia, the oldest republic in Africa, as a venue of this very important gathering of jurists. We have not the least iota of doubt that the annual conference and the training workshop will be resoundingly successful, and both the Liberian National Bar Association and the African Bar Association will keep a cherished memory of the planned deliberations forever. As the role of the legal profession in the attainment, maintenance, and sustenance of peace, democracy, good governance, as well as sustained economic growth and development cannot be overemphasized. We, lawyers, must remain ever determined and stimulated by a high degree of optimism to make our continent a cherished home for all Africans and an attractive place for the rest of the world through strengthening the rule of law in every imaginable way for the transformation of our continent. May God bless Africa. Thank you.
We now have the pleasure to invite to this podium Mr. Barrister Hannibal Wilfo, President of the African Bar Association.
Your Excellencies, Vice President of the Republic of Liberia, let me rest on the existing protocol provided by the President of the Liberian National Bar. I'm sorry for my voice. I've had this cold for quite a long time, but you will hear me because I already have a provided speech. On behalf of the Governing Council on behalf of the Governing and Executive Council of the African Bar Association, it gives me great pleasure to welcome all of you to the programs of the 2019 annual conference of our association, holding here in the historic city of Liberia, Monrovia, Liberia, the land of liberty. It is by the grace of the Almighty God, the hospitality of the Liberian National Bar Association, and the benevolence of the government and people of Liberia, that we are finally able to stage this event, which had to be located from Cairo, Egypt, due to contemporary issues facing the African continent. The exact theme of this conference. I therefore thank the LNBA, the executive, the judiciary, and the legislative arms of government of Liberia that have supported the state of this dialogue. Formed in 1971 as the fearless voice of the legal profession, the African Bar Association has played a role creditably in defense of the legal profession, continental legal emancipation, fostering of fraternity across the different borders of the continent. In 2016, recently in Harare, Zimbabwe, the association began a series of annual dialogues aimed at directly tackling issues militating against the rapid development of some key sectors of the African economic political space. That year, the conference agreed that the rule of law is the sure pathway to Africa's prosperity. In 2017, in Port Harcourt, Nigeria, participants dissected the laws and regulatory framework for doing business in Africa and concluded that the continent needed to do more in the laws and regulations in order to secure high volume of foreign direct investment and encourage local investors. In continuation of the association's agenda for a prosperous Africa, last year at our annual conference in Nairobi, Kenya, in further pursuance of the continent's socio-economic and political future, discussed in practical terms the African Union's Agenda 2063, a document created by the continent's top organization, covering all sectors of Africa's political and social agenda. This year in Monrovia, Liberia, we are set to discuss how we can drive a renaissance in tackling the contemporary issues we still face in Africa. I therefore welcome Mr. Carrington QC, Worldwide Ambassador of the African Bar Association, British-born Queen's Council, with essential lawyer, former president of the International Criminal Court Bar Association, who presently heads the United Nations investigation mission in Iraq, a friend of Africa, a specialist in African affairs. He will be delivering the keynote address, which we set the tone for a successful deliberation at this conference. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, how has Africa fared since its latest input from the African Bar Association? It is my respectful view that while progress has certainly been made since 2016, there are also several setbacks and a lot of progress still needs to be made to make Africa the world needs to be in and to do business with. In this direction, a number of issues still need to be tackled. Corruption in the conduct of public and private businesses is still rife and may even be rising at a frightening dimension. Corruption is a violation of the rule of law, brings socio-economic and political hardships, and is mostly responsible for the armed conflict that still does the African landscape from Egypt, Sudan, Nigeria, Uganda, through to Rwanda, Cameroon, Malawi, CRO, the DRC, Togo, Angola, and so on. Violent violations of human rights and the rule of law has to be recorded as an alarm rate. The frightening dimension which xenophobia taking particularly in South Africa is worrisome and a serious challenge to the cohesion and unity of Africans. The African Bar Association has joined in condemnation of this vice that has led to the untimely death of several Africans, maiming of others, and the evacuation of many more. The African Union, which most Africans believe is just a talk show, with no direct bearing on the lives of Africans, must wake up to our responsibilities and find practical solutions to these issues of corruption, human rights abuses, xenophobia, armed conflicts, nepotic bureaucracy, accountability, cross-border problems, and other numerous challenges which ordinary African faces daily. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Africa is at crossroads, and the duty of lawyers in positioning and repositioning the continent cannot be overemphasized. The role of the African Bar Association and individual lawyers are needed more than now, ever before. We must use the instrumentality of the law to take Africa to the promised land. Disobedience of court orders, harassment of judges, appointment of cronies to man judicial positions, persecution of opposition voices, bad governance, Egypt, Nigeria, Uganda, Cameroon, the DRC, top the chart here. Rwanda is famous for harassment and detention and disappearance of opposition figures. All these have to stop. The African Bar Association strongly condemns violations of any type across the continent and calls on all lawyers to rise up in defense of our citizens, using all lawful means to challenge these evils. While many parts of the continent are currently experiencing peace and others fighting terrorism or armed conflict of a severe nature, terrorism anywhere is a serious evil, and we condemn all acts of terror, especially against women, children, the vulnerable, and all those who plunge these countries into horrific chaos due to economic greed and hunger for political power. We call on the government to bring all these actors to account for their deeds. Liberia, where we are today, once more a proud country, was some time ago a theater of absurd. We commend the government and people of Liberia for the relative peace here today, all and all organs in the democracy in Liberia enjoys our work. We are also glad to know that some actors of the brutal civil war or the armed conflict that led to the death of thousands have been brought to justice. However, others have not. The African Power Station hereby call on the Liberian government to liaise with the appropriate international, continental and national bodies to set up the appropriate tribunal to look into all cases of all those who murdered innocent people and plundered this beautiful land. Who murdered innocent people and plundered this beautiful land. They must all face justice in a transparent and recognized legal and judicial process. This is the only way to rest the past and face the future. The African Bar Association has respected members as judges, lawyers, and experts in all fields and available to help the Republic of Liberia in this direction. Distinguished colleagues, the African Bar Association over the last few years have contributed to peace and stability and have been involved in a lot of activism, constructively and professionally engaging governments across the continent. In 2016 in Zimbabwe, when the government and the legal community and demanded for democracy and release of all detainees, our mission to Gambia in late 2016 to mediate the delicate disputes that arose from the 2016 general election, which the incumbent lost, was very successful. In 2017, the African Power Station sent a pathfinding mission to Burundi as a result of the conflict in that country. The campaign of calumny against the country in the delicate dispute that arose from the 2016 general elections, which Kumen lost, was very successful. In 2017, the African Bar Station sent a fact-finding mission to Burundi as a result of the conflict in that country due to disputed elections and the campaign of colony that country by an organized group of propagandists in the international arena. The report of our mission to that country, which was released to the international community and sent to the United Nations Security Council, exposed the hidden agenda of those involved and the need to find African solutions to African problems. Our association has been very vocal in respect of the ongoing crisis in Cameroon. These crises, which are since turned bloody and instigated by the dictatorial and violent actions of the Cameroon government against unarmed civilians, including children and the elderly, lawyers and others in the English-speaking part of that country. We have joined the international community to urge the government to do the part of dialogue. Unfortunately, the fascist government in power only wants peace on its own terms. These have prolonged the conflict. Once again, we call on the government of Cameroon to release all detained lawyers and other persons and bring in true reconciliation through democratic means. The association has also been active in several human rights issues in Rwanda, where it has written the government and demanded release of opposition figures unjustly incarcerated. Although some of these individuals have been freed, others are still in jail. We call on the government to free all detainees. The notorious fact of the brutal civil war and conflict in Sierra Leone is well known. The African Bar Association is pleased to see the present peaceful and democratic Sierra Leone. However, the reign of terror, the scars of war it leaves behind, is presently being pursued by the African Bar Association. The victims of the war crimes committed during those dark days have cried to the African Bar for help to pursue justice. The association is currently constructively and positively engaging with the countries concerned, with all the victims, their families and their lawyers, to have faith and be patient as the African Bar Association will pursue the cases to their local conclusion. In the international arena, the African Bar Association was part of a coalition of international legal associations that was invited to observe the proceedings in the trial of the Catalan leaders demanding independence from Spain. Although the final report is yet already, it was safe to conclude after watching proceedings for a week that the trial was more political than legal, as the charges did not match the events that took place or that occurred during and after the Catalan referendum for independence. We have seen the judgment of the courts, and we have also seen the results, because the advice was not needed. We call on Spain and all the Western democracy to respect the right to self-determination and set the Catalan leaders free. The African Bar Association is also part of international efforts to resolve the issues relating to the crisis in Venezuela. Ladies and gentlemen, our association has continued to forge international alliances, latest our partnerships with National Conference of Black Lawyers, United States, the National Association of Democratic Lawyers, the Tri-World International, United States Armed Forces African Command, Legal Division US African Military Law Forum, and the Nigerian Army. We are also before now entered partnership with the International Criminal Court Bar Association in The Hague, the Institute of International Law and Criminal Justice in Syracuse and Italy, and several continental and international organizations. Our cooperation and partnerships with the African Union is getting much stronger, especially with the Department of Trade and Industry. The African Bar Association represents the legal profession in the trade sessions relating to trade and services. Distinguished colleagues, I'm pleased to inform you that the African Bar Association has applied for status at the United Nations Social Council. An application is presently under processing. We hope to use the opportunity to deepen our network and contribution to the growth of Africa and the rest of the world. I want to express our deep appreciation to all our partners for their support. I'm particularly grateful to US African for their support for this conference and the military workshop, which is holding here in Monrovia as a conference, to which all of you are invited, even when you are not registered with certificate. They send resource persons here at their own cost. This is apart from several training meetings across the world, which the African Bar Association has been fortunate to be part of through the benevolence of West African. I welcome Colonel Christensen, who is here representing African, and Mr. Stella. Thank you so much for coming. I want to thank the NSCBL for sending us very renowned resource persons, Professor Leonard Hines, the Professor Emeritus of Stuttgart, who is a very big friend of the African Bar, whose flight is delayed but is on his way here. I welcome in a special way Professor John Philpott from Canada, a very strong partner of AFBA and a good friend of Africa. Professor Philpott, you are welcome. I want to welcome all our resource persons for their contributions to this year's conference. Your Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, on behalf of the Governing Council of the African Bar, express sincere gratitude and appreciation to the President of of the Republic of Liberia, President George Weah, for approving that this conference held in Monrovia, and for approving that the government of Liberia take some expenses of the African Bar and the Liberian National Bar. Wishing you a very successful tenure in office. Today here represented by mother of the nation, Vice President of Liberia, Senator Jewel Howard Taylor, who is also the Vice President of the Republic of Liberia. To our respected colleagues, our Vice President of the Republic of Liberia, the special events, the military workshop, and all that this great country has to offer. Welcome home to Monrovia, the land of liberty. Thank you all.
Mr. President, we also have another activity to execute, and that is the presentation of Certificate of Appreciation and Honor of the African Bar Association. And as the President will come up, we will call those who are the recipients of the honor to come in the order in which you have been called. We have Mr. Karikam Kising.
Monsieur Karikam.
Who will be graciously see later in the day. I present this on behalf of the African Bar Association to the representative of the President, Vice President Jewel.
Beautiful movement there being presented to Chief Howard.
Now for our respected Vice President, Our Excellency Chief Senator Jewel Howard Taylor, Vice President of the Republic of Nigeria, in appreciation for your excellent support. Vice President of the Republic of Nigeria, thank you. Vice President of the Republic of Nigeria.
At this stage, we call Madam Justice Jim Settle Howard who is the proxy of the Chief Justice, to receive the certificate of appreciation in his behalf.
One of strong reputation in the ambit of the rule of law, showing what lawyers are capable of doing if they actually operate under the ambit of the law. It is therefore my distinguished honor and a special pleasure to call Honorable Karim Khan, QC, to receive a certificate of appreciation from the African Bar Association. Appreciation states to Mr. Karim Khan, QC, in appreciation for your excellent support and Participation in activities of the 2019 annual conference of the African Bar Association as keynote speaker, given in Monrovia, Liberia on this day, 2019. I would also like to call Professor John Hillport to receive a certificate of appreciation from the African Bar Association.
L'appréciation de la part de l'AFBA.
Chief Charles Taku.
We'd like to call on Professor Lina Monrovia, Lieutenant General Tuku Burata. Please come forward as you informed. US Africa, US Africa, USA Africa. Councillor G. Moses Baker, Esquire. Including Liberia, Kenya, Nigeria, and Ghana. Lawyers, as officers, and arms of the court must be forthcoming, assisting the court to render justice. Where advisable, winning at all costs must be subordinated to living partnership against less acrimonious and capable of peaceful existence. Liberia has a common law system, also called Anglo-American law. The legacy of colonialism left us with different systems of law. Discussions at Uniting Africa always evolved around the United States of Africa with common currency, common defense, and common foreign policy. The economic community of West African states recently adopted the ECO as a common currency. It is time to begin to examine our various legal systems with the aim of either adopting one legal system, evolving a common legal system, or reducing to the minimum the differences. The concept of regional courts, like the ECOWAS
represents a significant stride in this direction. We wish the conferees success in the deliberations that will ensue over the next 2 days. And we hope that you will find Liberia a home away from home. We listen to the report of the President of the African Bar. We are pleased to inform our colleagues from all over Africa and from the African Bar Association that there is no loyalty in Liberia. We are committed to protection of lawyers as advocates, and we appreciate the role we have to play in our legal system. Thank you very much.
At this stage, ladies and gentlemen, we have the pleasure to invite Madam Justice Senator Howard Wilcoy, representing the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, who will now deliver a special message.
Madam Joel Howard Taylor, Vice President of the Republic of Liberia, President of the Liberian National Bar Association, President of the African Bar, our keynote speaker, Mr. Karam Khan, QC, distinguished members of the legal profession, military and security agencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I bring greetings on behalf of the Chief Justice of Liberia, His Honor Francis S. Copper Sr., the Associate Justices, and the entire judiciary to members and participants of this 2019 annual conference of the African Bar Association. As the Chief Justice stated at the opening of the term of the Supreme Court, he had a pending trip to Accra, Ghana, to attend an international conference on economic integration organized by the ECOWAS Community Court from October 21 to 23, 2019. So regrettably, he could not be here today. And so he designated me to represent him at this conference. It is good that lawyers and other distinguished personnel from across our continent can meet here in Monrovia to deliberate under the theme tackling contemporary issues facing the African continent. How lawyers can drive a renaissance. As we are aware, our continent, Africa, has been faced with a plethora of challenges that have denied the vast majority of its people a fair share of the total mass of wealth that nature has bequeathed unto the continent and its people. These diabolical challenges
Ces défis diaboliques
confronting the continent are not hitting.
face duquel se retrouve le continent
They are so glaring,
sont très
manifesting themselves in nearly
se manifestent
all aspects and sectors of life
les secteurs
on the continent,
de la vie sur le continent.
accounting for the snail pace of growth and development of most parts of our continent.
La lenteur du développement sur le continent.
As a people,
En tant que peuple,
not only are we falling in
non seulement
the know of these challenges or shadowed knowledge in terms of deciphering effective remedies to curb these persistent challenges.
pour faire face à ces défis.
I am firmly of the view that
Je suis de l'opinion
Africa's major setback has been
la raison pour
and remains our failure
l'Afrique a toujours
and
été
neglect
échec.
to commit ourselves to
Nous
doing
engager
what it takes
faire ce qu'il
to
faut.
rid the continent of the challenges
Donc,
that keep operating to its peril.
le défi qui continue à le terrasser.
Some of the endemic contemporary issues that Africa is faced with include corruption
la corruption,
and its derivatives such as poverty,
la pauvreté,
poor health care,
mauvaise
mass illiteracy, violation of human rights, environmental challenges caused by climate change and human agencies, transnational crimes such as drug trafficking, kidnapping, human slavery, counterfeiting, smuggling, and other criminal activities. The past couple of decades have witnessed the establishment of regional transnational security and law enforcement initiatives across the continent to ensure effective transnational collaboration in combating crimes. In the ECOWAS era, there is the West African Police Chief Committee, WAPO, created 201 by the ECOWAS heads of states and governments, with the principal objective of creating a forum that will strengthen fights against transnational crime, facilitate the development of a regional strategy against crime, trends through proper coordination, and to encourage joint activities of members, city police forces in the fight against criminality. There are other organizations in other parts of West Africa that we could mention. To tackle effectively the grave issues of concern to Africa, collective effort is the most effective approach, and in so doing, quality expertise from diverse professional backgrounds is indispensable. The superior critical thinking skills that lawyers have to their credit and the roles as advocates of justice and the rule of law, and as drivers of diverse problem-solving mechanisms, make lawyers a compelling necessity to lead, and they ought to lead in promoting justice and integrity, strengthening the integrity and capacity of criminal justice system, raising awareness, and informing and influencing law-making processes at all levels. Lawyers have the greatest share of responsibility
partage la responsabilité.
Because nothing substantive is tenable without the erecting of appropriate and enabling legal regimes. That alone makes lawyers across the continents the situated professionals in this endeavor. I would like you at this conference as lawyers to deliberate and study on how you can commit to helping our continent deal with these issues. Because for me, an effective combat of these issues relies on adherence to the rule of law. And you as lawyer could commit to rebranding the continent of Africa by committing to pursue the laws relevant to dealing with these issues. You African lawyers must commit yourself to the responsibility enumerated herein in your respective jurisdictions.
We're particularly honored to be given this opportunity to convey a goodwill statement at this year's conference. Sierra Leone, as the oldest bar association in the sub-Saharan West Africa, has had a long and cherished history with the African Bar Association. This history encapsulates the rebirth of the African Bar Association and the establishment of the Sierra Leone Forum of the African Bar Association. Over the years, that relationship between Sierra Leone Bar Association and the African Bar Association has been nurtured and deepened by a shared commitment to maintain the integrity of the legal profession, advocate for adherence to the rule of law, encourage democratic accountability, and provide access to justice. Through this shared commitment, Sierra Leone is also proud to have distinguished lawyers who are serving the AFBA in various capacities, and we're committed to take up more responsibilities as and when AFBA deems necessary. As the Vice President of the newly elected executive, I was reliably informed that Sierra Leone had committed to host the Legal Institute of Leadership and Human Rights, and as an incoming executive, we wish to register our support for such a brilliant project and assure the African Bar Association that we will engage the government of Sierra Leone and other stakeholders to ensure that we fulfill that commitment. Planet colleagues, this 2019 conference provides us a platform as African lawyers to re-examine ourselves in the face of challenges confronting our continent. It is not enough to look at ourselves as the brightest minds when women and girls who are being raped or sexually violated have no access to justice, when national constitutions are being violated and manipulated by heads of states with deafening silence, when politicians abuse their powers with impunity, when corruption becomes a way of life for those in authority, when our governments fail to reform our laws, when investors are not protected because of weak legal regimes, and young entrepreneurs do not have access to finance, when the freedom of press is constantly under threat, when our members of parliament fail to represent the interests of their constituents, when citizens fail to hold our governments to account for their promises, when our children do not have access to quality education, when citizens do not have access to quality health care, when our societies discriminate against persons with disability, when ordinary people do not have confidence in our justice systems, and the independence of the judiciary is hijacked, and when state security forces and state institutions are constantly manipulated to suppress the opposition in a democracy, We as lawyers must speak out, confront these challenges and shine light on them with courage and fearlessness.
Crucial difference for organizations that deal with social priorities, whether it's by tackling complex challenges, by protecting refugees or defending prisoners of conscience. There is a need for transparency in what the bar does so that other organizations can be able to copy. Let me just conclude by urging all law societies and unions in Africa to come together and have a uniform position on the integral rules, among other lawyers, on what we can do. We must take both steps, not minding who is in charge. We must also look at every issue based on law. I wish us successful deliberations at this conference. The Nigerian Bar will continue at all times to give their support to African Bar Association so that their objectives will be achieved. I thank you and wish you happy deliberations.
I don't see, and I refer to the protocol of the President of the Liberian Bar Association. I've been, this is my third time at an African Bar Conference. I have a great respect for the fierce independence of the African Bar and its executive, who's undertaken many difficult challenges and who's very easy to work with. And I congratulate them for this. I am particularly aware of the visit to Burundi in 2017, where they brought out the truth rather than the stories in the French and European media. I'm very happy with the criticism of Rwanda, and Victoire Ingabiri's attorney is here. I can't see her right now, but they're killing the opposition politicians and putting them in prison. I'm very proud that the President went to the trial of the Catalan leaders in Madrid, where it wasn't the West criticizing Africans, it was Africans who had the dignity to criticize a kangaroo court in Spain. I'm looking forward to the discussions here about terrorism and its patrons who disable the economies and set countries back, and they cannot function with the scourge of terrorism. I'm looking forward to the next 3 days. Thank you very much.
Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of Liberia, please permit me to stand on the existing protocol. On behalf of the United Nations system in Liberia, and particularly the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, I warmly welcome you to this very important conference and would want to identify what's the theme of the conference. The theme of the conference, if we dissect it, would give us the understanding that lawyers have a great role in the Renaissance. And to do this, I may need to remind you today that there are more lawyers in governance than any other profession. Out of the three arms of government, the lawyers exclusively controls the judiciary. The lawyers, numerically, are higher in the legislature, and most times, higher in the executive. So today, I would urge my colleagues, being a lawyer myself, for us to internalize that we may have failed the people we are supposed to protect. Out of the hierarchy of the arms of government, the judiciary is the last button of the common man. There is a reason for that. The reason for that is a vote of confidence that lawyers will be able to protect when it matters most. I wonder today whether we can stand to that crate that we define when it matters most. I would urge that this meeting, this conference looks at coming to a resolution that lawyers has failed in protecting and promoting and supporting good governance in this continent. This conference calls for what lawyers can do. Lawyers can do better. Today, and because of time, let me give you 3 issues that I think the lawyers can do more effectively. The first one is the issue of corruption. There are casualties arising from corruption in this continent more than casualties arising from the commons. The international human rights system gives national countries and regions the possibility of redefining human rights issues based on their contemporaries. And I would urge that can Africa begin to look at corruption and elevate it based on its impact to crime against humanity. Lawyers can help in ensuring the enjoyment of human rights in this continent. Today, we are struggling as a continent with economic, social, and cultural rights. Today, as a continent, we are still dependent on donors for immunizations. And we know very well the cost of immunization is less than the cost of aspirin. Finally, migration. Today, Africans are dying in the Mediterranean. And we are allowing other people to shape the narrative. The narrative is not migration. The narrative is not irregular migration. The narrative is a vote of confidence on bad governance in Africa. Our brothers are willing to die because they don't have a refuge in their own countries. And maybe the Bar Association, African Bar Association, begin to change the narrative and hold people in governance accountable for why people die in the Mediterranean. God bless Africa.
Was invited to come and grace this occasion, but due to some commitments, official engagements, he asked me to come and represent him. And of course, he did that knowing very well that Liberia is actually my own home as well. Because I actually served in Liberia 25 years ago. You must have noticed me talking with the vice president. We were actually neighbors when I was in Liberia, 1994, 1995, 1996. I came as a second lieutenant, and I was promoted captain here in Liberia. The Chief of Army Staff has asked me to assure the African Bar Association that his vision is to have a professionally responsive Nigerian army in the discharge of his constitutional role, and that he relies on the legal services to achieve that vision. And he wants me to assure you that he will continue to respect international humanitarian law. He will continue to respect international human rights law and all other relevant laws in the discharge of his responsibilities as the head of the Nigerian Army. And he has been doing that perfectly well. Time will not allow me to give you the details of what he has been doing. But before I go back to my seat, I want to assure you that the chief has asked me to let you know that he will continue to support the African Bar Association and all other relevant bodies that will build the capacity of his own officers in the legal department.
Respected Associate Justices, Attorney General, Minister of Justice, distinguished guests. indeed a pleasure to appear before you. And whether one is Christian or Muslim or Jew or of no faith, let me start by extending the greeting of peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The subject of the talk that I was asked to give was, of course, how lawyers can drive a renaissance. Some of you may be forgiven at this time of the day to think, is it how can lawyers get a lunch? But lunch will come. Lunch will come. But it is a challenging topic because, of course, how can lawyers drive a renaissance when very often in so many places they are so unliked? Not the most popular of professions. Since the time of Shakespeare, who of course started with, first of all, let's kill all the lawyers. Viewed very much, I'm afraid, as a necessary evil, perhaps like dentists, but without the anesthetic. But lawyers, of course, do have a very important role in society, as some of the speakers have already said. The other aspect, of course, that we'll touch upon are what are the contemporary issues. In short, what I will say is, for the African continent, who have struggled and paid such heavy prices for the fight of independence.
First female Vice President of Liberia, who happened to be a lawyer, for remarks and the official opening of the conference. Chief Sergeant Joanna Taylor, Vice President of the Republic of Liberia.
Please have your seats. The Supreme Court Bar, our special guest of honor, the Speaker, the President of the African Bar Association and its members, the President of the Liberia Bar Association and its members, the doyen members of the Diplomatic Corps. Permit me to stand on existing protocols. It's a very, very, very beautiful afternoon for me. I hope you feel the same. To God be the glory for indeed great things He has done. This afternoon I bring you greetings from His Excellency President George Manneh. We are President of the Republic of Liberia and our government. To all of our visitors who've come from far and near, and to our guest speaker, who have come to join the Liberian Bar Association for this important event. He asked me to extend to the President and members of the African Bar Association our gratitude as a nation for Liberia being chosen as the country to host the 2019 African Bar Annual Conference. Another theme, tackling contemporary issues facing the African continent and how lawyers can drive the new renaissance that we need. A lot has been said this afternoon, but I believe you've gathered from far and wide to look at your profession, to ensure that prevailing laws continue to provide a balance, and that rules of conflict, especially during these difficult times, are upheld, and that lawyers must remain tools for true justice. But the issue for your sitting, I believe, is not about who's right and who's wrong, which most times is the debate, but about laws, about ethics, about right and wrong, about doing the best you can in every situation, and ensuring that your clients are fully represented.
sorte que nos clients sont.
The judiciary is a very, very, very crucial national
Cette décision est une
instrument.
primordiale.
For if you do not ensure by your conduct
Si
and by the processes that you undergo
vous ne faites pas
that people respect the court
de faire pour vous respecter
and believe that justice is possible,
et pensez que la justice est
then
possible,
everything else is wasted.
donc tout cela nuit à vous.
We live in a global environment today
Nous vivons dans un village
where there are many issues.
et des sujets
Issues of war and conflict,
on parle de conflits, de guerre,
issues of different kinds of engagement,
vous avez des
the
conditions
need for protection for those who are underprivileged or disadvantaged,
pour les gens qui sont
the need for security at home,
besoin de sécurité
amongst our neighbors,
à la maison,
abroad,
dans notre voisinage,
issues of
comme à l'extérieur,
vulnerable persons
ainsi
and
que
punishment for violators of
des
the law.
sujets de personnes vulnérables.
As times and seasons change,
Donc,
the fact is that anything that happens in one nation today
en tenant compte
affects others very far away.
touche une nation aujourd'hui, affecte les autres,
This result of the effect of things happening in one spot, reverberating around the world,
tout ce qui touche un pays
calls for a legal profession
a besoin
to understand the rules first, to obey them,
des avocats
to abide by them,
qui travaillent
and to
ensemble
ensure there is justice for
pour
all.
permettre en sorte qu'il y ait la justice,
Not just for those who are in the conflict,
pas seulement ceux qui sont en état
but to set a standard that citizens can depend
de
on
présenter un
and
standard
rely on the court system
qui permet
as an environment of
aux
truth
tribunaux
and
de
justice.
faire mieux leur travail.
Sadly, men and women
Ce qui veut dire
have moved away from the old values
que les hommes et les femmes
of integrity
doivent tenir compte
and of truth
des principes
and of justice.
de vérité et de justice.
As a result, new laws have come into play.
Et par conséquent,
Maybe 25 years ago,
les nouvelles lois
you would not have heard of
doivent être
respondent superior
il y a 25 ans,
as it relates to war crimes or
le
governance
sujet du crime
or environmental degradation or corruption.
de l'environnement,
The complex systems of laws
maintenant le système très complexe
under the legal profession and the court
dans le domaine de la
should
justice,
provide a leverage
il faudrait
so that complaints,
des moyens
adjudication,
afin que
judgment, and punishment is seen as fair and right.
les sentiments se fassent.
As members of the African Bar Association gather here
Dans notre réunion,
to consider the role of lawyers
pour essayer de concilier
in the new renaissance that we all seek,
la renaissance,
especially across the African continent,
surtout à travers notre continent,
you'll look at many issues: human rights, sexual and gender-based violence,
droits humains,
equality,
violence,
land rights, and many others.
égalité,
But I pray that you will look critically
d'autres sujets.
at how the world views final judgments
J'espère que nous
proceeding from the courts.
plusieurs sujets avec
If I were to give a snapshot of how Liberians
objectivité
see the outcomes of the court
et un autre cas ici.
as a system played out by lawyers and judges and clients,
Système à travers les
the truth is,
et les magistrats.
many see it as an imperfect and almost faulty one,
Les gens se rendent compte qu'il y a
where justice
et
no longer seems blind,
la justice ne peut pas
but that justice is partial and unequal.
la justice doit être impartiale et
Many Liberians believe that there is no justice for the poor, and that if you are underprivileged or disadvantaged, just sit and wallow in your pity.
cette
Many others believe that the politics of our day
pense que
influences the outcomes coming out of the Supreme
il y a
Court.
une inégalité dans nos sociétés que les gens pensent
Yet others feel
la vraie justice
that in fact there is no need to go to court, but that in order to get justice,
se laisse un dit non
they must take the law into their own hands.
parce que la
Hence, from one sector to the other. People do not believe that the justice system can give them justice. Howbeit, this gathering is not a mistake. For as members of the African Bar Association and the Liberian Bar Association gather to deliberate on all of the myriad of issues on their plate, many hope that they will take a retrospective look at where the law originated. I believe many of the laws that we practice come from our religious books. That they will take a look at how processes and results mirror the original intent of the law in an attempt to help citizens believe again. To allow companies that come into our jurisdiction trust that there is a legal system that will uphold the truth. And how regular citizens regain their respect for the rule of law. For the law was created to provide protection for all, regardless of societal status or influence. It is the glue which holds everyone accountable. It is a system of rules governing the conduct of men and women as members of society. And it shows the reciprocal rights and duties that everyone must uphold, ensuring that no one is denied justice and that anyone who is guilty will be punished according to law. Excellencies, the President and members of the African Bar Association, the President and members of the Liberian Bar Association, ladies and gentlemen, it is my singular prayer that this annual session will consider not only compliance of local and international laws, but also compliance of the rules and procedure which govern this noble profession and its members. And how, in fact, this profession being practiced across the African continent can ensure that the legal system provides justice for all of our people, and that we regulate our members, and we sanction them when it is necessary. And if a lawyer or a judge must be removed because of flagrant disregard for the law, then so be it. I am of the opinion that the only basis for international peace and security around the world is adherence to the rule of law, which is based on equity, exercised in a fair and transparent manner, and provides justice without any fear or favor. In closing, may I remind the President and members of the African Bar Association that its responsibilities cover all of the national bar associations across Africa, that they should make their presence more felt, and that they, through their rules and regulations, will keep members of national bars on the correct track, so that they will be able to drive the renaissance so urgently needed across our continent and also here in Liberia. Permit me to leave you with these simple words. By your actions and your interactions, let justice be done to all. It is therefore my singular duty on behalf of His Excellency President George Monrovia to declare the 2019 Annual Conference of the African Bar Association being held in Monrovia opened.
successful deliberations and a pleasant stay here in our beloved nation. I thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we really standing here to Our Excellency, the Vice President of Liberia, for a wonderful speech. Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We'll move quickly